Hey everyone, it's Mike from This Old Hot Rod. Appreciate you guys checking in, watching the video. Back from Carlisle. I had a good time at Carlisle. I didn't get to film as much as I had hoped. I did a bunch of walking around, but it wasn't till after I was done vending. So I kind of woke up in the morning, ran and grabbed breakfast, you know, took a walk around, but it was really before everyone was open. You know, people had all covered up all their things, tarps over their tables and whatnot. So I didn't really get a chance to do much in the morning, and then during the day I spent most of my day sitting at my booth vending. I'm not complaining by any means. I had a really good time at Carlisle. I did really well in regards to selling. I sold the 38 cab over that I had purchased up in Maine. I sold that before I got to Carlisle. I had a gentleman that said he was going to meet me before I pulled into the fairgrounds. So I was fortunate to start the week off with a big sale. So I sold the cab over, and then on setup day, which was Wednesday, I did a little over $3,500 worth of, actually no, just under $3,500 in sales. Thursday had another good day. It was almost, I think it was like $1,500, maybe just a touch under $1,500. And the last day, I think I only did, $300 or $400. So overall, I did just over $8,000 in sales, which was incredible. It was more than I had ever imagined I'd sell at Carlisle. Everyone said it was basically the perfect storm. The weather was great. With Hershey being canceled, there were a lot of people that had planned on going to Hershey, but instead came to Carlisle. So with everything kind of that fell into place the way it did, it just ended up being a great year. I now have some extra money to spend on the coupe, on the 34 project. So I've since ordered a lot of parts for the car. Really wasn't able to purchase anything for the car while I was in Carlisle. Actually, no, I take that back. I was able to find a 1958 Chevy Corvette mechanical tack drive generator. So what that is it's a 12 volt generator or a 6 volt generator with a gear that runs off the back of the generator, which powers, it's a mechanical drive that runs a mechanical cable driven tachometer. I had hoped to find one. I didn't necessarily hope to find one at Carlisle, but I did find one. It's actually an old chrome one, which was even better. Some shelves. I'll do a quick overview video of what I purchased at Carlisle. I took a little bit of video when I walked around after the show. So at 5 o'clock, when I was basically done vending, I'd cover up my things and take a quick walk around, grab dinner. I really wasn't able to leave my booth because I was there by myself. However, I did leave a few times and walked around, and that's when I did score a couple of decent deals. I had planned on videoing a lot, but the video that I did get really wasn't that great. So I'm gonna just post up the video I have. There will be some music over it because it was mostly just video of me walking around. I'm really not talking all that much. A few conversations that I had with people, but again, it's nothing really that makes great video. I met a ton of good people. I talked to, Matt from Iron Trap, his buddy Pete, who's a lifelong hot rodder, super great guy. I really got to spend some time talking to Pete, and he knows people that I know up here from Mass. He's just a great guy. He's very well known in regards to hot rods and in the hot rod world. So the Carlisle hangover, I guess, is how I'm putting it. I've been super tired and just super busy since I got back from Carlisle with work and life and everything. My son's birthday. It's just a lot going on. So I just wanted to do a follow-up video, say hello, say thank you, and I'll be posting some updates soon on the 34. As you can see, I'm working on some patches here and things like that. And there's just a lot going on. So I'm staying busy, I'm filming, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care. See ya. I found a Ford aluminum manifold. Okay, and it says Ford right on the manifold in the middle. But where the carburetor bolts Yes, sir.
For memory?
Huh?
For memory?
Yeah, just walking around filming, you know. Been sitting at my booth all day, so.
What'd you bring up?
Mostly early Ford parts.
Yeah. Any old school scoops like that?
I didn't bring anything down like that, no. I don't even have anything like that. I'm looking for the small, like the 2-barrel stuff.
Okay.
Stromberg 90, you know, 97s, things like that.
It's got a couple air cleaners left. I think over there.
Yeah. Anything for an Olds 371?
I got a couple tri-power setups, and I got a whole motor and a tranny, but I don't know if I want to get rid of nothing. 53, 54.
Okay, so it's like a 303, 324.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking for 371 parts. Where are you out of?
Syracuse.
Okay. Yeah, I'm out of Mass. All right. Yeah, I'm just south of Boston.
Sure.
Cool. Awesome.
Have a good day.
Thank you. You also. Guys got some beautiful stuff over here.
Thanks.
What are you guys getting? What do you want for the champion sign?
6.5. Trying to get creative.
Yeah, man. Hey, you got to do what you got to do.
Right.
Oh, this thing's so cool. You here? What are you looking to get for the Firestones and the 2 Stromberg?
100 piece. You guys down earlier? Oh, I didn't know that.
No, I was over. My spot's right over here.
I
27.
must have been earlier. I had the box of Strombergs right here.
No, I hadn't seen them.
Oh, really?
No, I hadn't been up this way.
Whole box here, too.
going to show you a couple of things that I purchased at the swap meet. I have a few other things that are down in the big shop already up on the shelf. I'll just insert a couple pictures of the other items, but for the most part, what I have up here in the top garage is basically what I bought here. Like I said earlier, and point you down here. I purchased these old stacks, these aluminum stacks. They're really cool. They have a brass filter in them. I bought these off of a guy that had a lot of midget car parts, and he had an actual midget car there for sale also. Thought they were really cool. Clearly it's something that's homemade from back in the day. So I bought these off of a guy, 3 for 25 bucks. He had 10 bucks a piece. So they actually have a Naugahyde cover. There was one cover. It was like an off-white Naugahyde. My girlfriend's, one of her good friends is a seamstress, and I sent one of these to her with the cover, and she actually recreated 3 of them. So I now have 3 covers for these, which is really cool. Just in a cream colored Naugahyde. I also purchased 6 individual big logo 97s. Typically you find these at a swap meet. This one has a hole drilled in the top. Every now and then you'll find that. What that hole is, I believe, is for the heater. From back in the day, they would run a line from here into the heater because the heaters were gas powered. So a lot of times when you find these old carburetors, they'll have either a hole still in them, or the hole will be plugged with something. Doesn't really affect anything. I can plug that, or I can find a new top if I need to or wanted to. But for the most part, this carburetor looks like it had already kind of been gone through. It almost looks like it was sandblasted at one point in time. These 2 I bought from a gentleman. These have D bases. These came on his project. Or these were on his project. These carburetors, again, everything's kind of seen better days, you know. These are, you're going back to the mid 30s. For the most part, they look good. Everything moves free. I don't know if the spring's hanging up in there or what. Choke plate looks good. Get your base plate here, which a lot of times, if you open up your choke plate, open up the choke plate, and you can look through sometimes. If you have a flashlight, shine a flashlight through the top of the carburetor, and if you can see daylight, that's how I check them. You can see daylight coming through around the edges. That means you're going to have a tough time adjusting your idle, because the carburetor is not going to seal good, and it's going to keep pulling vacuum, which pulls fuel. These carburetors seem to be good. Again, you're just kind of going over them real quick when you're at a swap meet, and they're getting harder to find. So I buy them when I can buy them at a reasonable price. The next thing I bought is another hard to find item. This is an Almquist early Ford Flathead intake. This intake is for an 8BA, and the reason you can tell that is because it has the hole, the additional hole for the downdraft tube, for the road tube. It's basically like a crank vent. So it's obviously a dual carb intake, a 2-carb intake. These are extremely hard to find, and I paid up for this intake. I guess one of the main things to look at is obviously the condition. You want to look for cracks. There were no cracks anywhere in this intake. There were no old repairs anywhere on the intake. Everything appears to be good. Everything looks good. The deck looks good. It hasn't been milled, which is a nice sign that it hasn't been overheated and messed with. All the threads looked clear. I took this bolt and went around and checked all the threads. They were all good. So that obviously is another big thing to look at. A lot of times there's issues on the front on the generator mount. A lot of times they crack here. This one again is good. It's missing the stud, but you can buy this stud, and the threads are good where the stud goes in. So extremely hard intake to find. This was an East Coast company that made intakes on the East Coast, and they're just very desirable. Obviously, people collect them, and people run them on their cars as well if they can find them. I personally don't have a use for this intake, but I never thought I'd find one, so I had the opportunity to buy one, so I bought it. The second intake I picked up, it was a theme: flathead intakes and carburetors. I threw these on here because I had them. I bought this intake complete with the carburetors. These are also big logo 97s. Oh, no, wait a minute, I take that back. They might not be, they might be 81s. Oh, they're 48s. So these are Stromberg 48s. Very similar to a 97. They use the same body, same parts. The reason they call them a 48 is a really good question. I personally don't know the answer to that. Something I'll have to look into, and if somebody knows, please comment on the video. I looked at a few other carburetors at the swap meet, and a lot of times there's issues with the fuel inlets, and they get cracked or they get egged. You can drill them out and run an oversized fuel inlet. You can run a 1/2-inch inlet versus a 7/16. I've had to do those in a few of my carburetors. It's not the end of the world, but it's nice when you can find carburetors that everything's supposed to be the way they're supposed to be, or it is the way it's supposed to be. This intake, again, is a really desirable intake. This is an old polished Y-end intake. It's a 2-carb intake. This particular intake is set up so you have to run an offset generator. And what I mean by that is, some of you that don't know, your generator goes here, your mount here, and your generator typically runs above the front of your intake. On this intake, it does not have a generator mount. So in order to run a generator on this engine that you're going to run this intake on, you either have to run an offset for the driver's side for a mount, or you run a passenger side offset mount. And what that does is it bolts directly to the top of the head, and you mount your generator on the side. And essentially it's exactly what it's described as, an offset intake or an offset generator mount. So this intake was purchased from the same gentleman I purchased the Almquist intake from. Again, I paid up for this intake. They're hard to find, complete with good carburetors. Again, everything moved free. I wasn't able to take these off the intake, so obviously I left them on there. Kind of gave them a quick once over. These also look like they had been sandblasted at one point in time. Never painted the bases, but again, when you look at the thing, everything complete, the base is good. It's never been machined. All the holes look good, nice and clear. No cracks, no old repairs, which sometimes that gives it some extra history and some character, but it's nice when you can find an intake like this that hasn't been messed with at all and damaged. So this was intake number 2. These 2 carburetors were a total of 8 carburetors that I picked up. And then the mother of all intakes. Oh, this intake is for a 59A or an earlier Flathead from, oh, what was it, 40, oh boy, what is it? So it was 32 to 30, so 38 to 48, 38 to 48, I believe. Is this what this intake fits? This intake also fits 38 to 48. I don't know if I can get this off. This intake was run in the late 50s into the early 60s down south by a gentleman named Dan. Dan is the gentleman that I bought all these intakes from. See some old pinstriping on this shield. This intake, you can see the old Iscadarian cam sticker. I've looked all over the internet and I cannot figure out which sticker this is. I found one that was similar to the similar size. I purchased it online. That's coming, so I want to replace that as close as I could anyways, but unfortunately it's not going to be the exact sticker. This intake was run on his front engine dragster that was clearly flathead powered. This has been sitting in his garage since the 60s. He ran it in the 50s. I didn't get the entire history on, you know, the car and all the specifics on the car, but these carburetors are set up for alcohol. You can tell by the big fuel lines. You can tell by this little rod right here. Not to mention, he told me some of the history on the car, or the carburetors. These carburetors have been modified. There's no choke plates in them, so they're wide open because that's how they're made to run. He made these little covers for them at some point in time. So it's an early Edelbrock script intake, and the number is S as in Sam, U359. So this intake was run on a very stout flathead that Dan, like I said, raced back in the day. This is complete. It has all of the linkage straight from the firewall, as you can see here, all handmade. All ball bearing. Has an early Edelbrock fuel block with the early style clamps and the early style fittings. These don't have the barbs, so when you're out looking at swap meets and you find old brass fittings, you want to look for the one with the single rolled top, like a blob top at the end, instead of the barbs. That's when you know these are earlier. So I always, when I'm looking for stuff and buying stuff, I'm always looking to find these early brass fittings. So it was just a really cool old fuel block. You know, people collect these too. It's nice that it has an early Edelbrock fuel block and the Edelbrock intake. This intake also, no damage, no issues whatsoever. Obviously the threads are all good because the studs are all in it. No damage to the generator mount. The carburetors are essentially decorations. Again, big logo 97s, as you can see. This one's a little different. It says 97, but it's stamped in there, so I don't know what the difference is between this. But if you were to look at these carburetors, if you look at the tops of these carburetors, they're different. So it might be a different style top that they were running back in the day for alcohol. But if you look at the size of this versus the size of that, this is quite a significance. Sorry about that, I had a phone call. So, as I was saying, this intake was run on an early Ford flathead powered dragster. The dragster that the intake was on the motor that it was running in, ran low 11s. And he was running against Don Garlett's back in the day when Garlett's was running his flathead dragster, his rail, I guess is what you want to call it. Don Garlett's was running in the mid-10s. So Dan never really beat him all that much, he said. The only time he ever won was if Garlett's broke. So he was kind of always the runner-up type guy. So so this intake has quite a bit of history to it. It's really cool. Again, I paid up for it because of just the history behind it and just the fact that I had the opportunity to buy something like this, which was really cool. Things like, you just don't see stuff like this all that often, and when you do, sometimes you get drunk and you fall in love with things like this. So that's what happened to me. I ended up seeing this intake and just kind of fell in love with it, you know. But so, again, that's my follow-up video for Carlisle. Sorry it took me so long to get it out to you. Life has just not been playing fair lately. So I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys following along. Thanks for the support. It was great meeting everyone that I met that follows along down at Carlisle. It was really cool to get to talk to people, and you know, it's nice to get, you know, the first-hand appreciation from people, not over the keyboard, but actually face to face. So thanks again. I appreciate everybody following along. I'll see you guys soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.